The billionaire's knees hit the floor. Hard. Khalid al-Rahman, $4.2 billion in the bank, private jets on 3 continents, a man who never bowed to anyone, was on his knees in a rundown Phoenix diner. Tears poured down his face. His hands trembled as he reached toward his daughter. "Baba," 7-year-old Amira whispered. She took one step. Her legs shook. Then another step. 18 months. 18 months she hadn't walked. 17 doctors. $50 million spent. 0 results. Until today. Grace Martinez stood frozen behind the counter, coffee pot shaking in her grip. The $8.50 an hour waitress watched a miracle she didn't mean to create. Her hands wouldn't stop trembling, because she knew what was coming. What Khalid didn't know, the woman who just healed his daughter. She wasn't some waitress. She was Dr. Grace Martinez, the youngest physical therapist Johns Hopkins ever graduated. A genius hiding in plain sight. What Grace didn't know, helping this child would rip open the scandal that destroyed her 3 years ago. The secret she'd been running from. The powerful man who crushed her career and left her with nothing. In exactly 72 hours, everything would explode. One of them would lose everything. One of them would be saved. But right now, in this moment, a father watched his paralyzed daughter walk for the first time since the accident that killed her mother, and neither of them understood how much this moment would cost. Let me show you how we got here. 6 a.m., Rosewood Diner. Phoenix heat already climbing toward 105 degrees. Grace Martinez tied her apron strings for the second time that morning. Double shift, again. Her feet ached before the breakfast rush even started. The coffee machine hissed. Bacon sizzled on the griddle. The broken air conditioner rattled and wheezed, losing its battle against the Arizona sun streaming through fingerprint-smudged windows. "Order up! Table 6, Grace." She moved on autopilot, grabbed plates, balanced 3 on her left arm, 2 on her right. Deliver to table 6 without checking her notepad. She never needed to write orders down. 23 orders memorized this morning, not one mistake. Scrambled eggs, wheat toast, side of fruit, coffee black. 2 sugars. She placed each plate with precision. The elderly man at table 6 smiled. "You never forget, do you?" Grace smiled back. Tired. Always tired. Her phone buzzed in her apron pocket. She ignored it. Knew what it said without looking. Bank balance, $327.41. Rent due in 6 days, $875s. The math haunted her during every shift. She refilled coffee cups, cleared plates, wiped down vinyl booths that squeaked under her cloth. The metallic taste of exhaustion coated her tongue. 3 hours of sleep. Student loan payment yesterday took another $200. Car insurance due next week. "Grace, table 9 needs you." A businessman hunched over his laptop, rubbing his neck. Grace approached with coffee. "Rough morning?" she asked. "My back is killing me," he muttered. Grace's hands moved before her brain caught up. She set down the coffee pot. "May I?" Her fingers pressed specific points along his shoulder blade. 30 seconds. The man's posture shifted. "What did you—" He rolled his shoulders. That's incredible. How did you know?" Grace froze. Her hands dropped to her sides. The old instinct. The training she couldn't erase. "Just a trick my grandmother taught me," she said quickly. Grabbed the coffee pot. Walked away before he could ask more questions. Her hands rubbed together nervously. Always rubbing. The muscle memory of a life she used to live. Behind the counter, she overheard nurses from Wesley Medical Center across the street. They came here every morning. Same booth, same complaints. "Another hopeless case in the private wing," one said. "Rich father spending millions. Kid's been paralyzed 18 months. Nothing's working." Grace's jaw tightened. She knew that story. Knew it too well. At the end of her shift, she'd go home to her studio apartment. Medical textbooks gathering dust on the shelf. Her Johns Hopkins diploma hidden in the bottom drawer beneath winter sweaters. A framed photo on her nightstand. Her grandmother's weathered hands teaching 5-year-old Grace pressure points on a practice doll. That was another lifetime. Now she was just a waitress, just invisible, just surviving. The lunch rush was about to start, and Grace Martinez had no idea that in the next 30 minutes, her entire life would detonate. The black Rolls-Royce pulled up outside Rosewood Diner at 12:17 p.m. Everyone noticed. Denise, the manager, straightened her shirt. Customers turned to look. The lunch rush conversations dropped to whispers. "That's him," someone breathed. "That's Khalid Al-Rahman." The door opened. A security guard stepped out first, scanned the diner, nodded. Then he emerged. Khalid Al-Rahman, 6'2", tailored charcoal suit worth $12,000, dark hair graying at the temples. The kind of presence that made rooms feel smaller. But it was his eyes that told the real story. Exhausted, haunted. Behind the expensive cologne and the confident stride, Grace saw something she recognized instantly: desperation. A private nurse followed him, pushing a custom wheelchair. And in that wheelchair sat the smallest, most heartbreaking sight Grace had seen in years. Amira, 7 years old, beautiful traditional Arabic dress in deep purple with gold embroidery, dark curls framing a porcelain face. She clutched a stuffed camel against her chest, thumb in her mouth, silent, completely withdrawn. "Mr. Al-Rahman, what an honor!" Denise rushed forward, nearly tripping over her own feet. "We'll get you the best table." "Somewhere quiet," Khalid said. His voice was deep, accent slight. "Away from the windows." "Of course. Of course." Grace watched from behind the counter. The other staff whispered, "That's the billionaire whose daughter was in the car accident." "I heard he's worth billions. 18 months ago, his wife died. The little girl hasn't walked since." Khalid settled into the corner booth. The nurse positioned Amira's wheelchair carefully. The security guard stood near the entrance, arms crossed. Grace approached with menus, her waitress smile in place. "Welcome to Rosewood. Can I start you with—" Khalid's phone rang. He held up one finger, answered immediately. "Dr. Chen, tell me you have results." His voice shifted, urgent, demanding. "The scans from Tuesday. What did they show?" Grace pretended to wipe down the adjacent table. Couldn't help but listen. 17 specialists, Khalid said into the phone. 17, 4 continents, $50 million. And you're telling me there's nothing more you can do? His hand clenched around his water glass. Experimental treatment in Switzerland costs what? I don't care about the cost. I care about results. Grace glanced at Amira. The child stared at nothing, thumb still in her mouth, eyes empty. The stuffed camel's worn fur suggested she'd been holding it a long time. Then something shifted. Amira's hand trembled. She dropped her camel, reached toward her father, mouth opening like she wanted to speak. But no words came out, just a tiny whimper. Khalid immediately softened, ended his call mid-sentence. "Habibti," he whispered, switching to Arabic. His whole face transformed, gentle, patient. He picked up the camel, placed it back in her small hands, kissed her forehead. "It's okay, my love. Baba's here. Always here." The moment was so tender, so private, Grace felt like an intruder witnessing it. But her trained eyes saw something else. The way Amira's legs lay motionless in the wheelchair, the muscle atrophy, the slight inward rotation of her feet, classic signs of disuse. But something didn't match. Grace's medical brain activated against her will, analyzing, calculating. 18 months of paralysis. But the muscle tone wasn't consistent with permanent nerve damage. This wasn't a body that couldn't move. This was a body that wouldn't move. There was a difference, and Grace knew exactly what that difference meant. The lunch rush hit like a hurricane. Grace balanced 4 plates on one arm, 3 on the other. Orders screamed from the kitchen. The diner was packed, every booth filled. The noise level tripled. Table 12 needs refills. Where's my burger? Grace, table 4 is waiting. She moved through chaos like water, smooth, efficient, automatic. Muscle memory from 3 years of invisible survival. Khalid's table was in her section. She delivered their food without making eye contact. Grilled cheese for Amira, cut into small triangles. Lamb kebab plate for Khalid. Water, no ice. Thank you, Khalid said. Grace nodded, turned to leave. Then she heard it. The small gasp, the clatter of a fork hitting the floor. She spun around. Amira's entire body went rigid, her back arched, small hands clawed at her legs, her face contorted in pain, silent, agonizing pain. No, no, no. Khalid dropped his own fork, grabbed his daughter's hands. Not again, not here. The spasms started. Grace's medical brain registered everything in half a second. Flexor spasticity, lower extremities, involuntary muscle contractions, approximately 90 to 120 seconds between episodes based on the child's breathing pattern. The nurse fumbled through her bag. I had the medication right here. Amira's legs jerked violently. Tears streamed down her face, silent tears, like she'd forgotten how to cry out loud. Every person in the diner turned to look, and Grace felt it. The pull, the instinct she'd been bearing for 3 years roaring back to life. Her hands tingled, her heart hammered, her feet moved forward before her brain could stop them. No, don't, you can't. You'll expose yourself. You'll lose everything. But her grandmother's voice echoed louder. Healing is not about permission, Mija. Healing is about presence. Grace's hands were already reaching toward Amira. What are you doing? The nurse snapped. Grace didn't answer, couldn't answer. Her entire being focused on the child in front of her. She dropped to her knees beside the wheelchair, placed her hands on Amira's small legs, found the pressure points by instinct, gluteus medius, piriformis, quadriceps insertion point, applied firm, precise pressure. Khalid grabbed Grace's wrist. Don't you dare. Let me help her, Grace said. Her voice was steady, calm. The voice of Dr. Grace Martinez from Johns Hopkins, not the waitress, the healer. She held his stare. Khalid released her wrist. Grace's fingers worked, muscle memory taking over. Pressure point therapy her grandmother taught her combined with neuromuscular technique from her graduate training. She could feel the tension in Amira's muscles, the trauma locked into the tissue. The body protecting itself from pain by creating more pain. 10 seconds, 20, 30. The spasms slowed. Amira's breathing evened out. The rigid muscles softened under Grace's hands. And then the child looked up at her, dark eyes, wet with tears, but aware, present. Amira's lips moved, a whisper so soft Grace barely heard it. Ya Dr. Your hands are warm. The diner went dead silent. Khalid's face drained of color. She spoke. She hasn't spoken above a whisper since... He couldn't finish the sentence. Grace pulled her hands back. They were shaking, her whole body shaking. What are your credentials? The nurse demanded. You can't just touch patients without... She needed help. Grace stood. Her legs felt weak. She needed help, and I helped. Denise rushed over, face panicked. I am so sorry, Mr. Al-Rahman. Our staff isn't supposed to... It's fine. Khalid's eyes never left Grace, studying her, analyzing her. What's your name? Grace. Grace. He repeated it slowly. Where did you learn to do that? My grandmother. A lie, kind of. Her grandmother taught her the foundation. Johns Hopkins taught her the science. But she couldn't say that, couldn't admit what she really was. Grace turned and walked back toward the kitchen. Her heart pounded so hard she thought everyone could hear it. Behind her, she heard Khalid's low voice, speaking to his assistant. Find out everything about her. Everything. Grace just made a choice that exposed her. She couldn't help herself. She saw a child suffering, and every instinct, every ounce of training she spent years earning, screamed at her to act. But here's what she doesn't know. The moment she touched that child, she started a chain reaction that will rip her life wide open. Before we continue, I need to know something. If you were in Grace's position, if you had a gift that could help someone but using it could destroy everything you've been hiding, would you have helped anyway? Or would you have protected yourself? Drop your honest answer below. There's no right answer here, but your choice tells me something about how you see the world. Also, tell me where you are watching from in the comments section. I want to know how far this story goes, and hit that subscribe button right now. Your comments and subscriptions gives us the support we need to grow and improve, because what Khalid discovers about Grace's past in the next 10 minutes will shock you. And what Grace doesn't know, what she can't possibly know, is that his investigation is already starting. Her secret is about to explode. Make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss what happens when a $4.2 billion fortune collides with a 3-year-old scandal that destroyed an innocent woman's life. The kitchen door swung shut behind Grace. Her hands gripped the steel counter, knuckles white, breath coming too fast. Grace! Denise stormed through the door. What the hell was that? She was in pain. You can't just touch customers, especially customers like him. Denise's voice pitched higher. Do you know who that man is? One complaint from Khalid al-Rahman and we're done. This whole place is done. Grace closed her eyes. I'm sorry. It won't happen again. It better not. Denise left. The kitchen staff avoided eye contact. Grace leaned against the wall, trying to calm her racing heart. What did I just do? 5 minutes later, the assistant, the man in the dark suit who'd been standing near Khalid's table, walked into the kitchen. Grace Martinez. Her stomach dropped. Yes. He handed her a business card. Thick, expensive cardstock. Khalid al-Rahman's name embossed in gold. Mr. al-Rahman requests a meeting. Tomorrow, 10 a.m., Wesley Medical Center, private wing. I can't. The assistant placed an envelope on the counter. He insisted you accept this. For your expertise. He left before Grace could respond. She opened the envelope with shaking fingers. $500 bills. $500. Grace's mind calculated automatically. Rent covered, utilities covered, groceries for 2 weeks. But the business card felt like a trap. She shoved both into her apron pocket and finished her shift in numb silence. 3 years earlier, Grace Martinez stood in the administrator's office at Baltimore Memorial Hospital, 26 years old, youngest physical therapist in the trauma unit, rising star. Richard Thornton sat behind his massive desk, silver hair, expensive suit, the smile of a man who'd never heard the word no. Marcus Chen, he said, sliding a file across the desk. 8 years old, spinal trauma from a car accident. You've been treating him for 3 months. Yes, Grace's throat tightened. And he's responding. His mobility has improved 12%. With continued intensive therapy and the aquatic program I recommended, the insurance company denied coverage for continued treatment. Then we appeal. I can document his progress. I can show... No. Thornton's voice was flat. You're going to sign this form certifying that Marcus Chen has reached maximum medical improvement. That further treatment would be futile. Grace stared at the paper in front of her. That's not true. The family can't afford private treatment. The insurance won't pay. This is a business decision. This is a child's life. This is reality, Dr. Martinez. You sign the form, or you're terminated for insubordination. Grace's hands shook. She thought about her student loans, her apartment, the career she'd worked so hard to build. Then she thought about Marcus's smile when he stood with assistants for the first time in 4 months. No, she whispered. I won't sign it. Thornton's expression didn't change. Then you leave me no choice. 1 week later, the medical board launched an ethics investigation, falsified patient records, inappropriate treatment protocols, billing fraud, all lies, all impossible to disprove without resources Grace didn't have. Her license was revoked, her reputation destroyed, job offers vanished, student loans came due with no income to pay them. Marcus Chen died 6 months later. Pneumonia, complications from immobility. The treatment Grace recommended would have saved him. Grace sat in her studio apartment, laptop open, searching. Khalid al-Rahman daughter accident. Articles flooded the screen. Headlines from 18 months ago. Tragic accident claims life of Yasmin al-Rahman. Injures. Daughter billionaires desperate search for medical miracle. No hope for recovery, say top neurologists. Grace clicked through medical photos leaked to the press. Her trained eye analyzed every detail. Amira's CT scans, MRI results, neurological assessments. And then she saw it. The thing 17 specialists missed. Amira's paralysis wasn't purely physical. The scans showed minimal nerve damage. Minimal, not enough to cause complete immobility. This was trauma-induced conversion disorder, psychosomatic paralysis, the body shutting down to protect the mind from unbearable grief. Grace could treat this. She knew exactly how to treat this. But treating it meant revealing who she really was, meant risking everything she'd been hiding, meant facing the medical establishment that destroyed her once and could destroy her again. Her phone buzzed. Unknown number. The offer stands. My daughter needs you. K. al-Rahman. Grace stared at the message. Across the room, her Johns Hopkins diploma stayed hidden in the drawer. Her grandmother's photo stared at her from the nightstand. And somewhere in Phoenix, a 7-year-old girl sat in a wheelchair, silent and suffering, while her billionaire father threw money at a problem money couldn't fix. Grace's fingers hovered over her phone. She knew what she had to do. Khalid al-Rahman walked into Rosewood Diner at exactly 11:30 a.m. Alone. No assistant, no security, no Amira. Grace saw him through the kitchen window. Her stomach dropped. He sat in her section, deliberately. She had no choice but to approach. Coffee? Her voice was steady, professional. And answers. Khalid's dark eyes locked onto hers. Sit down, Grace. I'm working. I bought out the restaurant for the next hour. Sit down. Grace glanced at Denise, who nodded frantically from behind the counter. Whatever Khalid paid, it was enough. She slid into the booth across from him, hands folded in her lap, heart hammering. Where did you learn to do what you did yesterday? Khalid asked. My grandmother taught me. Don't lie to me. His voice was soft, dangerous. I've built a $4 billion empire on reading people, and you, Grace Martinez, are a terrible liar. Silence stretched between them. Khalid pulled out his phone, tapped the screen, turned it toward her. Grace's blood turned to ice. Her own face stared back at her. A news article from 3 years ago. Rising star physical therapist, stripped of license in ethics scandal. Grace Elizabeth Martinez, Khalid read. Johns Hopkins University, graduated top of her class at 24. Youngest physical therapist hired by Baltimore Memorial Hospital's trauma unit. Fired and license revoked in 2021, following allegations of ethics violations and fraudulent treatment protocols. Grace's jaw clenched. If you know all this, why am I here? Because I had that security footage analyzed. Khalid swiped to a video. Grace watched herself kneeling beside Amira's wheelchair, hands positioned on the child's legs. My medical consultant, a neuromuscular specialist from UCLA, reviewed this frame by frame. You want to know what he said? Grace said nothing. Textbook perfect pressure point therapy, precise neuromuscular manipulation. Whoever did this knows exactly what they're doing. Khalid leaned forward. 17 specialists, 4 continents, $50 million. And not one of them suggested the technique you performed in 30 seconds. So, I'll ask again, why is someone with your training working in a diner for minimum wage? The question hung in the air. Grace met his eyes. When she spoke, her voice was measured, controlled, but underneath, fire burned. Because I refused to let a child die to protect a hospital's bottom line. She told him everything. Richard Thornton, Marcus Chen, the falsified ethics charges, the destroyed career, the student loans she couldn't pay, the medical board that blacklisted her, the 3 years of running, hiding, surviving in whatever way she could. Khalid listened without interrupting. His expression was unreadable. When she finished, silence filled the booth. I looked into Richard Thornton, Khalid finally said. Made some calls this morning. Very interesting what you find when you know where to look. Medical board complaints against 7 other practitioners. All of them questioned his treatment decisions. All of them mysteriously faced ethics violations shortly after. Grace's breath caught. You're not the first person he destroyed, Grace. You're just the one who's still fighting. I'm not fighting, Grace whispered. I'm surviving. Is there a difference? Before she could answer, Khalid swiped to another image on his phone, a medical scan. This is Amira's most recent MRI. 2 weeks ago, $40,000 test. You know what it shows? Grace leaned forward, professional instinct taking over. She studied the scan. Minimal neurological damage, she said slowly. Some scarring in the L4, L5 region, but nothing that would cause complete lower body paralysis. The nerve pathways are intact, mostly. That's what the scans show, but she can't walk, can't move her legs at all. Khalid's voice cracked slightly. 17 doctors told me the same thing. There's no medical reason for her paralysis. It's psychosomatic, trauma-induced conversion disorder. Her body shut down to protect her mind from the grief of watching her mother die. Grace's hands gripped the edge of the table. They said therapy might help. Might. But none of them could tell me how. None of them could give me a treatment plan. They just said, give it time. Time. Khalid laughed bitterly. I have all the money in the world and I can't buy my daughter time. He closed his eyes, took a breath. But yesterday, you touched her for 30 seconds and she spoke. She hasn't done that since the accident. So I need to know, can you help her? Grace wanted to say no, wanted to protect herself, walk away, stay hidden, but she couldn't. Yes, she whispered. I think I can. Then name your price. 100,000, 200. I'll pay whatever. No. Khalid stopped. No. I don't want your money. Grace's voice was firm. I can't practice legally. If anyone finds out what I'm doing, I could face criminal charges. And you could be charged with aiding an unlicensed practitioner. So no, I won't take money for this. Then why would you help? Because she's a child in pain, and I have a gift I can't ignore. Grace's eyes blazed. Because 3 years ago, I watched a little boy die because I couldn't help him. I won't watch another child suffer when I can do something. Khalid studied her for a long moment. Then he pulled something else from his jacket, a tablet, pressed play on a video. Amira appeared on the screen, but this Amira was different. Younger, maybe 5 years old. She wore a sparkly pink dress and danced through what looked like a palace garden. Spinning, laughing. Her mother, a beautiful woman with Amira's same dark curls, spinning with her. The joy on that child's face was blinding. Grace felt tears burn her eyes. The video ended. That's who she was, Khalid said quietly. I need to find that child again, and I think you're the only one who can help me. Grace's hands rubbed together, the nervous habit, the instinct she couldn't suppress. She thought about her destroyed career, The risk. Richard Thornton. The medical board. Prison. Then she thought about Marcus Chen's funeral, about Amira's silent tears, about her grandmother saying, "We don't heal because it's safe, Mika. We heal because it's who we are." "I'll do it," Grace said, "on 3 conditions. I work around my diner shifts. I make no promises about outcomes. And if the medical board finds out, you use every resource you have to protect me." Khalid extended his hand across the table. "You have my word." They shook. Grace walked out of that diner terrified and exhilarated. She was about to do what she was born to do, and this time she wouldn't let anyone stop her. The address led Grace to a place she'd only seen in magazines. The Phoenix penthouse occupied the entire top floor of the city's most exclusive building. $15 million, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Camelback Mountain, the kind of view that made you forget people struggled to pay rent. Grace clutched her worn canvas bag, stuffed with her grandmother's oils, her old therapy notes, the few supplies she'd managed to keep, and felt completely out of place. A doorman escorted her up. The elevator opened directly into the penthouse. Her breath caught. Marble floors, artwork she recognized from museum catalogs, a staff of 12 moving silently through rooms larger than her entire apartment building, crystal chandeliers, Persian rugs, the scent of expensive everything. The contrast hit her like a physical blow. Last night, she'd eaten ramen noodles for dinner in her studio apartment where the heater didn't work. This morning, she stood in a palace. "Miss Martinez." Khalid appeared, dressed casually, but still wearing clothes worth more than her car. "Thank you for coming. Amira is in the treatment room I set up. This way." He led her through the penthouse to a sunlit room overlooking the mountains. Medical equipment lined one wall, expensive machines Grace recognized from her hospital days, a therapy mat on the floor, soft lighting, and in the corner, in her wheelchair, sat Amira. The child's eyes widened when she saw Grace, then narrowed with fear. "No." Amira's voice was barely a whisper. "No more doctors." Grace's heart broke. She set down her bag slowly, sat on the floor, not in a chair, not standing over the child, on the floor, eye level. "I'm not a doctor, Amira," Grace said softly. "I'm just Grace. Remember me? From the diner?" Amira clutched her stuffed camel tighter. "Is that Jasper?" Grace asked. Amira's eyes flickered with surprise. "How did you know his name?" "Your dad told me. Jasper looks like a very good friend." Silence. Then, quietly, "He is. He doesn't hurt me." Grace nodded. "The other doctors hurt you when they tried to help?" Amira's small face crumpled. "They poke me and twist my legs, and it hurts so much and nothing gets better." "I'm sorry, sweetheart. That sounds really scary." Grace stayed where she was, non-threatening, patient. "I want to help you feel better, but I'm not going to do anything you don't want me to do, okay? You're in charge here." Amira studied her. "Promise?" "I promise." 5 minutes passed, then 10. Finally, Amira whispered, "What's in your bag?" Grace smiled. "Want to see?" She pulled out a small bottle. "This is lavender oil. My grandmother, my abuela, used to make it herself. She taught me that healing isn't just about fixing bodies. It's about making people feel safe." "It smells nice," Amira said. "Would you like me to put a little on your hands?" "Just your hands. Nothing else." Amira hesitated, then nodded. Grace moved slowly. Let Amira see every movement. Applied the oil gently to the child's small palms, then showed her how to rub her hands together, warming the oil, releasing the scent. "My abuela used to tell me stories while she worked," Grace said, "about how our bodies remember things, good things and bad things. And sometimes, when something really bad happens, our bodies try to protect us by holding on tight. so tight that we forget how to let go. Amira listened, transfixed. I think your body is holding on really tight right now, Grace continued, trying to keep you safe. But I think maybe we can teach it that it's okay to let go a little bit. Would you like to try? Another long pause. Then, okay. The first session lasted 20 minutes. Grace used gentle pressure points, explained neuroplasticity in terms a 7-year-old could understand. Your brain is like a really smart computer that can learn new things, even when it forgot how to do old things. She worked on Amira's feet, just the feet, gentle stretches. Pressure points her grandmother taught her, combined with textbook physical therapy technique. And she talked about her abuela, about the body's wisdom, about how crying helps us heal, about missing people we love. Amira cried halfway through. That's good, Grace whispered. Tears help, they really do. By the end, Amira's toes moved. Just a twitch, just the smallest curl, but movement. Khalid, watching from the doorway, gripped the frame so hard his knuckles went white. Grace, you came back. Amira's whole face lit up. Progress. This time, they worked for 40 minutes. Amira talked about her mother, about the accident. Grace listened, hands gentle but firm, working through the muscle memory stored in the child's legs. My body shut down when they said Mama was dead, Amira whispered. I heard them say it and everything just stopped. Your body was trying to protect you from pain too big to feel all at once, Grace explained. But now we're going to teach it that you're strong enough, that you can feel the pain and survive it. Because you already are surviving it, Habibti. You're so brave. Amira's spasms reduced by 30%. She spoke in full sentences, quietly still, but more words, more trust. And when Grace applied pressure to her calves, Amira felt it. I can feel your hands, she gasped. Khalid, still watching every session, wiped his eyes. Amira was waiting on the mat when Grace arrived, out of her wheelchair, sitting on the floor. I wanted to surprise you, she said shyly. Grace's throat tightened. Best surprise ever. This session went deeper. Grace guided Amira through visualization, imagining her mother's face, her mother's voice, her mother saying, It's okay to heal, baby girl. I want you to heal. Amira sobbed. Grace held her, applied therapeutic pressure to release the trauma locked in muscle tissue. And when they were done, Grace helped Amira stand, with support, with most of her weight on Grace's hands. But standing. Amira's legs trembled, held for 10 seconds, then gave out. But in those 10 seconds, everything changed. I stood, Amira breathed. Grace, I stood. Khalid buried his face in his hands. Grace met his eyes across the room. They both knew. This wasn't about medicine anymore. This was about love, about healing the unhealable, about miracles that happened when you saw someone, truly saw them, and refused to give up. Amira was coming back. Grace is giving Amira something $50 million couldn't buy, not a treatment, not a cure, not a medical protocol from the world's top specialists. She's giving her presence. She's seeing Amira as a person, not a case file. She's healing the body by healing the spirit first. But here's what you need to know. The medical establishment that destroyed Grace 3 years ago, they're about to find out what she's doing. And when they do, everything she's built, every moment of progress with Amira, it's all at risk. Drop your answer below. Do you think Khalid is genuinely grateful? Or is he using Grace? Is this about his daughter, or is there something else going on? And hit that subscribe button right now, because the complication coming in the next section will have you on the edge of your seat. Someone from Grace's past is about to walk through that door, and what happens next will determine whether this miracle continues or whether Grace loses everything. Again. Session 4, 3 weeks into treatment. Grace had Amira on the therapy mat, working through hip flexor stretches. The child was laughing, actually laughing, as Grace told a story about her abuela accidentally dyeing her hair green with the wrong herbs. And she had to go to church like that, Amira giggled. Bright green for 3 weeks, Grace confirmed. The elevator dinged. Khalid looked up, frowning. I'm not expecting anyone. Footsteps clicked across the marble floor. A woman's voice. Mr. Al-Rahman? I tried calling, but... She appeared in the doorway. Grace's entire body went rigid. Dr. Patricia Caldwell, mid-50s, sharp suit. Amira's lead neurologist from Wesley Medical Center, the woman who'd worked at Baltimore Memorial Hospital, who'd been in meetings with Richard Thornton. Caldwell's eyes swept the room, landed on Grace, on her hands positioned on Amira's legs, on the therapy equipment, the oils, the setup that screamed physical therapy treatment. Recognition flashed across her face. You, Caldwell breathed, Grace Martinez. Grace pulled her hands back, stood slowly. Her heart hammered so loud she was sure everyone could hear it. Dr. Caldwell. Her voice was steady, somehow. I didn't know you were coming. Clearly, Caldwell's expression hardened. Mr. Al-Rahman, what is going on here? This woman is practicing physical therapy without a license, on a child. Grace is a family friend, Khalid said quickly. She's providing comfort care. Comfort care? Caldwell stepped closer, staring at the therapy setup. This is a professional treatment space. Those are clinical-grade therapy tools, and I just watched her perform neuromuscular manipulation. Her voice rose. This is illegal medical practice. This is a felony. Amira shrank back, eyes wide with fear. Grace was helping me. She has no legal right to touch you. Caldwell spun toward Khalid. Do you understand what you've done? If anyone finds out I'm her treating physician and I allowed this... She stopped, took a breath. I have to report this. I'm legally obligated. Grace's world tilted. 3 years of hiding, destroyed in 3 seconds. Dr. Caldwell. Khalid's voice dropped to a register Grace had never heard. Cold. Absolute. You need to think very carefully about what you do next. Are you threatening me? I'm reminding you that you signed confidentiality agreements regarding my daughter's treatment. Extensive agreements. Those don't cover illegal. And I'm reminding you that my legal team is very thorough. Khalid pulled out his phone, tapped twice. You should be receiving an email right now. Caldwell's phone buzzed. She looked at the screen. Her face paled. What is this? Evidence that you recommended experimental surgery for my daughter, knowing full well her condition had a psychosomatic component that surgery couldn't address. Evidence that you billed my insurance for treatments you knew were unnecessary. Evidence of communications with pharmaceutical companies regarding kickbacks. Grace's eyes widened. You're bluffing, Caldwell whispered. Am I? Khalid moved closer. My daughter has shown more improvement in 3 weeks with Grace than in 18 months with your entire team. So here's what's going to happen. You're going to forget what you saw here. You're going to sign the additional NDA my lawyer is preparing, and you're going to focus on your own practice instead of destroying someone whose only crime was caring about patients more than profits. Silence stretched. The elevator dinged again. A man in a suit stepped out. Khalid's lawyer arrived impossibly fast. Within 20 minutes, Caldwell signed papers, left with a face like stone. But the damage was done. Grace sat on the floor, shaking. I have to stop, she whispered. If she tells anyone, if Thornton finds out, I can't go to prison, Khalid. I can't. You're not going to prison. You don't know that. Grace makes the hurt stop. Amira's voice cut through the room, loud, strong. Everyone else just hurts me more. Grace sees me. She helps. Don't make her leave. It was the first time Amira had raised her voice since the accident. Grace and Khalid stared at the child. Amira's small face was fierce, determined. "I won't let them take you away," Amira said. "You're mine." Grace's eyes filled with tears. Khalid met her gaze. "We crossed a line," he said quietly. "Now we have to see it through." Grace drove home in silence. Her hands shook on the steering wheel. The Phoenix streets blurred through tears she refused to let fall until she was safely inside her apartment. Inside, she collapsed against the door. 3 years. 3 years of staying invisible, of protecting herself, of surviving. Destroyed in one afternoon. Her laptop sat on her tiny kitchen table. She opened it, searched practicing medicine without a license, Arizona penalties. 5 years in prison, fines up to $10,000. Her stomach turned. But then she thought about Amira, about the child's mobility improving 40%, about her speaking freely now, about the smiles, the laughter, the hope returning to those dark eyes. Grace closed the laptop, opened her email. Her breath stopped. New message. Subject line. "I warned you." She clicked it with trembling fingers. "Dear Dr. Martinez, I heard through colleagues that you're practicing therapy on a patient in Phoenix, without a license. I destroyed your career once for defying me. Now I'll destroy your freedom. Criminal charges will be filed within the week, unless you cease all therapeutic activities immediately and sign a statement admitting your previous misconduct. I gave you a chance to do this quietly 3 years ago. You refused. Now you'll face the consequences publicly. Regards, Richard Thornton." Grace read it twice, then a third time. The old fear rose up, the instinct to run, to disappear, to protect herself at all costs. She could leave Phoenix tonight. New city, new name. Start over again. Abandon Amira mid-treatment, just like Marcus Chen was abandoned. Grace's hands clenched into fists. A memory surfaced. Marcus Chen's funeral. Rain pouring down. His mother, tiny, broken, gripping Grace's hand. "You tried to save him," she'd whispered. "They wouldn't let you, but you tried. Thank you for trying." Grace had carried that guilt for 3 years, the child she couldn't save because she didn't fight hard enough, didn't risk enough. Let the system destroy her instead of fighting back. Not again. She opened a drawer, pulled out a folder she'd been building for 3 years. Documentation, evidence, emails she'd saved, recordings she'd made, names of other practitioners Thornton had destroyed. She'd been gathering ammunition without even realizing it. Grace grabbed her phone, searched for patient advocate lawyers in Phoenix, found one with good reviews, sent an email at 11:47 p.m. "My name is Dr. Grace Martinez. I was wrongly accused of ethics violations 3 years ago, and the man who destroyed my career is threatening me again. I have evidence. I'm ready to fight. Can you help me?" She hit send, then opened a new document, started typing. Formal complaint against Richard Thornton, hospital administrator. She wrote for 3 hours, documented everything. Every lie, every falsified record, every practitioner he'd silenced, every patient who'd suffered. At 2:34 a.m., her phone buzzed. Text from Khalid. "Grace, I know you're scared, but Amira asked about you 3 times tonight. She wants to know when you're coming back. Whatever you need to fight this, I'll provide it. You're not alone anymore." Grace stared at the message. She'd been alone for 3 years, but maybe she didn't have to be anymore. She texted back, "I'll be there tomorrow, same time, and I'm ready to fight." The next morning, Grace drove to Khalid's penthouse with her folder of evidence, her phone full of messages to lawyers, and a determination made of steel. When the elevator doors opened, Amira was waiting. "You came back." The child's face lit up like the sun. "I promised I would," Grace said. "I keep my promises." Khalid met her eyes, saw the shift in her, the warrior instead of the victim. He nodded. Grace set down her bag. "Let's get to work." Session 8. 3 weeks after the confrontation with Dr. Caldwell. Grace had been living on the edge, working her diner shifts, treating Amira, meeting with lawyers, building her case, barely sleeping. But today was different. Today, she felt it in her bones. Something was going to break through. Amira, Grace said gently, today we're going to do something hard. The child looked up from the therapy mat. What? We're going to talk about your mama. Really talk about her, about the accident, about everything you've been holding inside. Amira's face shuddered. I don't want to. I know, Habibti, but your body is holding all that pain, and until we let it out, you can't fully heal. Khalid sat nearby, hands clasped. You don't have to, my love, only if you're ready. Amira looked between them, then quietly, will you stay with me? Every second, Grace promised. They started slowly. Grace worked on Amira's legs while asking gentle questions. Tell me about the day of the accident. Amira's breath hitched. We were driving home. Mama was singing. She always sang in the car. What was she singing? Kultum, the old songs Baba loved. Tears started. Then the truck came. It was so loud, and then everything was spinning. And Mama was screaming my name. And then her body seized. Grace's hands moved immediately, applying pressure to the points that released muscle tension. Keep going, sweetheart. You're safe. I'm here. Then it stopped. Amira was sobbing now. Everything stopped, and I heard the ambulance people, and one of them said, her voice broke. He said, this one's gone. And I knew Mama was dead, and my body I couldn't move. I couldn't feel anything, because if I felt it, it would kill me too. Grace's own tears fell silently. She worked through Amira's muscles, releasing, applying, holding. Your body was so smart, Grace whispered. It protected you when the pain was too big. But Amira, you survived. You're still here. And your mama would want you to live. Really live. Not just survive. Amira wailed. Deep, primal grief poured out of her. Khalid wept openly, watching his daughter finally grieve instead of shutting down. 90 minutes. Grace worked through every muscle group, every pressure point, every place trauma hid. When it was done, Amira lay exhausted on the mat. I'm so tired, she whispered. You just did the hardest work in the world, Grace said. Now let's see if your body's ready to let go. She helped Amira sit up, then slowly helped her stand. Amira's legs trembled, but they held. I'm standing, Amira breathed. You are. Grace kept one hand supporting her. Now, I'm going to hum a song, and you're going to try something for me, okay? She began humming. A traditional Arabic melody Khalid had taught her, the song Yasmin used to sing. Amira's eyes widened. That's Mama's song. It is, and she's watching you right now. I know she is. Grace stepped back slightly, still close, still ready to catch. Take a step, Habibti, for your mama. Amira's face scrunched with concentration. Her right foot lifted, moved forward, touched down. One step. She gasped, started crying again. I did it. Did you see? I walked. Do it again, Grace encouraged. Left foot. Another step, then a third. Then her legs gave out. Grace caught her, held her. You walked, Grace whispered. You walked, Amira. You did it. Mama, did you see? Amira sobbed into Grace's shoulder. I walked. Did you see me? Behind them, Khalid's knees hit the floor. The billionaire who never bowed to anyone collapsed completely. Tears streamed down his face. His shoulders shook. Thank you, he choked out. Grace, thank you. Amira reached for him. Baba, I walked. Khalid crawled forward, wrapped his arms around both of them, and the three of them held each other while the afternoon sun poured through the windows, and hope, real, tangible hope, filled the room. Amira fell asleep in Grace's arms, exhausted, wrung out, but peaceful in a way Grace had never seen before. Khalid carried his daughter to her bedroom, tucked her in, kissed her forehead. When he returned, he looked like a different man, vulnerable, raw, the billionaire facade completely stripped away. "Do you want tea?" he asked. "Yes." They sat on the terrace overlooking Camelback Mountain. The Phoenix sunset painted the sky orange and pink. The city sprawled below them, oblivious to the miracle that had just happened. Khalid handed Grace a cup. His hands were still shaking. For a long time, neither spoke. Then, "Yasmin was my childhood sweetheart." Grace looked at him. "We grew up in the same neighborhood in Dubai. Poor neighborhood. My father was a taxi driver. Hers worked construction." Khalid's voice was soft, distant. "We were 16 when we fell in love. Everyone said we were too young, but we knew." He stared at the mountains. "I wanted to give her the world, so I worked. Started with one property, then another. Built an empire. She was there for every deal, every risk, every success. We built it together." "She sounds amazing," Grace said quietly. She was. Khalid's voice cracked. "When Amira was born, Yasmin said, 'Now we have everything.' And we did. We had everything." Silence. "The accident was my fault." Grace's head snapped up. "What?" "I was supposed to drive them that day, but I had a conference call. A deal in London worth 50 million. I told Yasmin to take the driver. She said, 'You and your deals.' And she was smiling, and I thought..." He stopped, breathed. "I thought there would be time later, time to choose them over the deal. But there wasn't." Tears fell freely now. "The drunk driver hit them head-on. Yasmin died instantly. Amira was trapped in the wreckage, conscious, for 40 minutes. 40 minutes with her dead mother beside her." "Can you imagine?" Grace's throat closed. "After, I threw money at the problem, because that's what I do. I fixed things with money. I hired the best doctors, bought the best equipment, spent $50 million trying to buy back my daughter." He turned to face Grace. "And then a waitress earning $8 an hour did in 3 weeks what 50 million couldn't do in 18 months. Khalid, I need to tell you something." His voice was thick with shame. "When I first had you investigated, it wasn't just to understand your background. I was going to use your desperation, offer you just enough money to secure your help without having to really compensate you. I thought you'd be grateful for the scraps." Grace went very still. "I'm a billionaire who built an empire on reading people, on finding leverage, on getting what I want at the lowest possible cost." Khalid's face was anguished. "And I was going to do that to you, to the woman who saw my daughter as a person, not a medical case." "But you didn't," Grace said, "because I watched you with her. And I saw something I'd forgotten existed." He wiped his eyes. "Presence, real presence. You weren't performing therapy. You were healing her, body and soul. You gave her something I never could." "You love her," Grace said. "That's what she needs most." "But I didn't know how to show it anymore. I thought protection meant control, meant throwing money at problems, meant never being vulnerable." Khalid's voice broke. "I have $4.2 billion, and I couldn't help my own daughter. You have nothing, and you gave her everything." "That's not true," Grace said fiercely. "I didn't heal her alone. You created a safe space for her to heal. You let her grieve. You let me use methods that terrified you because you trusted they might work. You did that, Khalid, not your money. You." He stared at her. "And you know what else?" Grace continued. "Amira is healing me too. Every session with her, I remember why I became a therapist. I remember that I have a gift, that I'm not just what happened to me 3 years ago." Khalid was silent for a long moment. Then, "What do you need, Grace?" Tell me. I know you don't want me to just throw money at your problems, but I have resources, legal teams, investigators. I can help you fight Thornton. I can help you get your life back. Grace took a breath. I need my license restored, my reputation cleared, and I need Richard Thornton held accountable for what he's done. Consider it done. No. Grace met his eyes. I don't want you to buy my justice. I want to earn it the right way. Through the system, through evidence, through truth. Khalid studied her, then nodded slowly. Then let me give you the tools to fight. My legal team. My investigators. Access to resources you'd never have alone. But the fight, the choices, the strategy, that's all you. Grace extended her hand. Deal. They shook. Not employer and employee. Not billionaire and waitress. Allies, friends. Two people who'd found each other in the wreckage of their broken lives and decided to rebuild together. We're going to take him down, Grace said. We are, Khalid agreed. The sun set over Phoenix, and the war began. Khalid just offered Grace everything she's needed for 3 years. Legal resources, investigators, the power to fight back against the man who destroyed her. But here's the question. Should she accept his help? Some of you are thinking, take it. Use every weapon you have. Thornton destroyed her. She deserves to fight back with everything. Others are thinking, no. She needs to do this on her own. Otherwise, she's just trading one powerful man for another. Drop your honest answer below. Should Grace accept Khalid's resources, or should she fight alone? And make sure you're subscribed, because the final 20 minutes of this story are going to show you exactly how they take down Richard Thornton, the press conference, the medical board hearing, the moment Grace stands up in front of the world and tells her truth, and the final scene, the very last moment. I promise you, it will have you in tears. Don't miss it. Hit subscribe now. Grace sat across from Jennifer Reeves, a patient advocate lawyer with a reputation for taking down corrupt medical administrators. I've reviewed everything you sent me, Jennifer said, and Grace, you have a case. Grace's hands gripped her coffee cup. Strong enough to win? Strong enough to destroy him. They spent 6 weeks building it. Grace provided documentation she'd been quietly gathering for 3 years. Emails, recordings of conversations, names of 8 other practitioners Thornton had destroyed using the same tactics. Khalid's investigative team, normally used for corporate espionage, uncovered the smoking gun, financial records showing kickbacks, payments from insurance companies to Thornton every time he denied expensive treatments, $2 million over 5 years. He wasn't just protecting the hospital's bottom line, Jennifer explained. He was personally profiting from denying patient care. Grace felt sick. Marcus Chen could have been saved, but Thornton made more money letting him die. Yes, Jennifer said quietly, and that's what we're going to prove. They filed formal complaints with the medical board, submitted evidence to the state attorney general, contacted journalists. The story broke on a Tuesday morning. Billionaire backs wrongly accused therapist in medical corruption case. Hospital administrator under investigation for kickback scheme. 8 medical professionals destroyed, all questioned, same administrator. Grace's phone exploded with messages, friend requests, interview requests, reporters camping outside her apartment. We need to control the narrative, Jennifer said. Before Thornton does. Press conference tomorrow. Are you ready? Grace wasn't ready, but she showed up anyway. The press conference was held at the foundation Khalid had already started setting up. A simple room, a podium, 30 journalists and cameras. Grace wore a simple dress, no makeup, just herself. Her hands shook as she approached the microphone. My name is Dr. Grace Martinez, she began. 3 years ago, I lost my license to practice physical therapy. I was accused of ethics violations and fraudulent billing. My career was destroyed. My reputation ruined. She paused, looked directly at the cameras. None of it was true. She told Marcus Chen's story. 8 years old, spinal trauma, insurance denying coverage, Thornton demanding she certify the child as untreatable to justify the denial, her refusal, his retaliation, Marcus's death. Her voice cracked only once. I became a physical therapist because I watched my grandmother heal people, because I believe in the body's capacity to recover when given proper support and care. Because I believe every patient deserves an advocate who puts their health above profits. She held up a folder. This contains evidence that Richard Thornton received kickbacks from insurance companies totaling over $2 million for denying patient care, that he destroyed the careers of 8 practitioners who questioned his decisions, that he fabricated ethics violations against anyone who threatened his income stream. Cameras flashed. I'm not here for revenge. I'm here for justice. For Marcus Chen. For the other 7 practitioners he silenced. For every patient who was denied care because one man valued money over human lives. Questions erupted. Grace answered them all. Calm, direct, honest. At the back of the room, Khalid watched with Amira, who insisted on coming, who walked in with just a cane, whose presence said everything. After 45 minutes, Jennifer ended the press conference. The story went viral within hours. 3 days later, Dr. Patricia Caldwell called. I need to speak with you, she said. They met at a coffee shop, neutral ground. Caldwell looked older, tired. I watched your press conference, she said. Twice. Grace waited. Thornton pressured me too. When I was treating Amira, he contacted me, said if I declared her condition permanent, there were pharmaceutical companies willing to pay for experimental surgery trials. I'd get consulting fees. The hospital would get research grants. Caldwell's hands trembled around her cup. I almost did it. I almost condemned a child to unnecessary surgery because the money was good. But you didn't, Grace said, because I saw her walking with you. And I realized, Caldwell stopped. I realized I'd become exactly what I swore I'd never be, a doctor who served money instead of patients. She pulled out a folder. This is every communication I had with Thornton, every pressure he applied, every unethical suggestion. I'm submitting it to the medical board, and I'm testifying on your behalf. Grace's eyes filled with tears. Thank you. The medical board hearing took 3 days. Grace testified, presented evidence, watched as 8 other practitioners came forward with their own stories, watched as Thornton's lawyers tried to discredit everyone, watched as Patricia Caldwell took the stand and dismantled his defense with clinical precision. On the 3rd day, they called Marcus Chen's mother as a witness. She was tiny, fragile, but her voice was steel. My son trusted Dr. Martinez. She fought for him when no one else would, and when they silenced her, my boy died. She stared directly at Thornton. You killed my child for money. I hope you never sleep peacefully again. The room was silent. The board deliberated for 4 hours. When they returned, the head of the board looked directly at Grace. Dr. Martinez, this board owes you an apology. The evidence clearly demonstrates that the charges against you were fabricated as retaliation for refusing to participate in insurance fraud. Your license is not only restored, it is restored with commendation for your ethical conduct under extreme pressure. Grace couldn't breathe. Furthermore, we are referring Richard Thornton's case to the State Attorney General for criminal prosecution. Mr. Thornton, your hospital privileges are permanently revoked. Thornton's face drained of color. Grace stood outside the building 20 minutes later. License restoration letter in her hands. 3 years. 3 years of grief, rage, survival. Over. Khalid and Amira found her there. Amira walked up, still using the cane but walking, and handed Grace a gift. A framed photo. Grace and Amira during that first treatment session. Amira's face finally peaceful. I wanted you to remember, Amira said softly. Grace pulled the child into her arms and cried. 3 months after the press conference, 6 months after that first miracle in Rosewood Diner, Grace stood in front of a newly renovated building in Central Phoenix. The sign above the door read, the Yasmin and Marcus Foundation. Holistic therapy for children, failed by conventional medicine. Khalid stood beside her, Amira between them. We did it, Grace whispered. You did it, Khalid corrected. I just provided the building. The foundation had been his idea, named for his wife and the boy Grace tried to save. But Grace ran it, hired the staff, designed the programs, ensured every child, regardless of ability to pay, received care. They'd treated 43 children in the first 6 months, 43 families who'd been told there's nothing more we can do, found hope. Grace's published research on trauma-based paralysis was being cited by universities. She'd been invited to speak at medical conferences. Her phone rang constantly with job offers from prestigious hospitals. She turned them all down. This is where I'm meant to be, she told Khalid, with the kids nobody else wants to treat. Her life had transformed. She'd moved out of the studio apartment into a modest 2-bedroom near the foundation. Still drove her beat-up Honda, couldn't quite let it go. Still lived simply, but by choice now, not necessity. She had her license, her reputation, her purpose. One afternoon, Grace returned to Rosewood Diner. Denise looked up from the register. Grace, oh my God, we saw you on the news. Hi, Denise, Grace smiled. I wanted to thank you. For what? For giving me a job when no one else would, for letting me work double shifts, for not asking too many questions. Denise's eyes filled with tears. You were always the best waitress I had. I wasn't a waitress, Grace said gently. I was a therapist hiding in a waitress's uniform, but this place kept me alive while I figured out how to fight back. She handed Denise an envelope. What's this? Open it. $500 bills. Grace, I can't. Give it to whoever's working the hardest, whoever's struggling, whoever needs rent money and won't ask for help. Grace looked around at the worn booths, the tired staff, the customers who came here because it was affordable. Someone in this diner is hiding something too. Someone is more than they appear. Give them a chance to keep surviving until they can fight. Denise hugged her hard. Grace turned to leave. At the counter, a young woman was refilling coffee. Dark circles under her eyes, exhausted, moving on autopilot. Grace recognized that exhaustion. She left a $20 tip on the counter and a note. You're stronger than you think. Keep going. That evening, Grace received an envelope in the mail, no return address. Inside, a handwritten letter. Dear Dr. Martinez, my name is Lin Chen. My son was Marcus. He died 3 years ago. I heard what you're doing now, the foundation, the children you're saving, the fight you won. I wanted you to know, Marcus would be so proud of you. You honored his memory by refusing to let his death be meaningless. You saved 43 other children. You exposed the man who valued profit over my son's life. Thank you for trying to save Marcus. Thank you for not giving up on children like him. Thank you for being exactly who you are. With gratitude, Lin Chen Grace read the letter 3 times, then placed it on her desk, next to her restored license, next to the photo of Amira, reminders of why she fought, of what she'd won, of who she'd become. Amira visited the foundation every week, now walking without assistance, running even, her laughter filling the treatment rooms. She volunteered reading to the younger children, showing them her stuffed camel, Jasper, telling them, Grace helped me walk again. She'll help you too. Khalid split his time between Dubai and Phoenix, transformed by the experience, more present, less controlling. He'd stepped back from his company's day-to-day operations to focus on the foundation. Yasmin would have loved this, he told Grace. She always said money was only valuable if you used it to heal the world. You're healing it, Grace said, one child at a time. One evening, the three of them sat on Grace's modest balcony, eating takeout, watching the sunset. Amira leaned against Grace's shoulder. Auntie Grace? Yes. Habibti? Will you always be here? Grace kissed the top of her head. Always, I promise. Khalid met her eyes across the table. Gratitude and friendship in that look. They'd saved each other. Grace Martinez started with nothing but her gift and her conscience. It was enough. Because sometimes the miracle isn't what money can buy. It's what humanity offers when we're brave enough to use what we've been given. Grace's journey took 3 years of hiding, 3 years of survival, 3 years of being invisible. But in the end, she didn't just get her life back. She built something bigger than herself. If you made it this far, if you watched Grace transform from a broken waitress into a healer who's changing lives, you're part of something special. You're part of a community that believes invisible people deserve to be seen. That believes the underdog can win. That believes one person with courage can change the system. If you haven't subscribed yet, do it now, because every week I find these stories. Real people, hidden geniuses, invisible heroes working jobs that don't reflect who they really are. And drop your answer below. What's your hidden skill that would shock people if they knew? What's the gift you're carrying that the world hasn't seen yet? I read every single comment. Your story matters. You matter. And maybe, just maybe, your story will be next. 6 months later, Phoenix Cultural Center, Arabic Heritage Festival. The stage lights up, music swells, and Amira Al-Rahman dances, traditional Arabic dress flowing, gold embroidery catching the light. Her movements are fluid, joyful, free. She spins, leaps, her face radiant with pure happiness. In the audience, Grace sits next to Khalid, both of them crying. Amira sees them, waves mid-spin, mouths, "Thank you." The narrator's voice returns. One waitress, one choice, one miracle that changed 2 lives forever. But here's the part that should terrify the medical establishment. Grace Martinez wasn't special. She was just willing to act when others wouldn't. How many more people like Grace are out there right now, working invisible jobs, carrying gifts the world refuses to see, waiting for the moment they're brave enough to step forward? I'm going to find them, and you're going to hear their stories.